Shohei Ohtani preserving the Dodgers' perfect record, updates on Micah Parsons' contract, and CN Betts making All-American. All that and more coming up. Hello.
There's one thing you can never have sex without.
It's consent.
Because sex without it isn't sex.
It's rape.
It's on us to stop sexual assault.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
It's a short ride from your neighborhood to your naturehood. To find a neighborhood park or green space near you, visit discovertheforest.org.
Cinderella found the pet that fits her perfectly, and you can too. Share your heart, share your love. Make a shelter pet part of your world. Happily Ever After begins at theshelterpetproject.org.
It takes less than 1 minute to find out if you may have prediabetes. You can do it here. But I get it, you're busy, and busy people can't have prediabetes. I read that wrong. They can, okay? Just go to the site.
Hello, welcome to the Rowan Sports Rundown. I'm Dan here with Patrick.
The Los Angeles Dodgers keep finding ways to win, securing a series sweep against the Atlanta Braves. The hero? None other than Shohei Ohtani, who crushed a walk-off home run to center field on the first pitch he saw in the 9th inning. It initially looked like the Braves were on the road to their first victory of the season, taking an early 5-0 lead, but the Dodgers crawled back, tying the game in the 8th before eventually coming away with the victory. While Los Angeles is still undefeated at 8-0, Atlanta dropped to 0-7. No team has ever made the postseason after losing their first 7 games of the season.
Trouble is brewing down in Dallas as Jerry Jones and the Cowboys still have not reached an agreement for a contract extension for star pass rusher Micah Parsons. Things have taken a turn for the worse in recent days as Parsons lashed out via social media in response to Jones's comments, stating he would not go through with Micah's agent to get a deal done. The Cowboys have been notorious in recent years for long periods of time to pay their players, and this situation is no different. Rumors have been swirling for upwards of a year now regarding Dallas' stance of a potential Parsons contract, and it's beginning to look more and more likely that the 25-year-old superstar will walk out the door. As free agents sign and more are coming off the board, the glaring question is where will Aaron Rodgers play next year, or if he will play at all? With the Giants signing Russell Wilson, the Seahawks getting Sam Darnold, and the Jets getting Justin Fields, the only spot for Rodgers if he's going to play is on the Pittsburgh Steelers. Steelers owner Art Rooney weighed in on the Rodgers pursuit, saying, "We keep hearing that he's, I guess, headed in our direction, and so that seems to indicate that all signs are positive so far." The Steelers have no timeline for Rodgers signing. He has recently had 2 throwing seasons with newly acquired receiver DK Metcalf, and Art Rooney says that Rodgers doesn't have forever, but they will wait a little longer.
The dynamic kickoff will still be in the NFL for the 2025 season, but will have a slight change. NFL ownership voted on Tuesday at the annual league meeting to continue to utilize the dynamic kickoff, while moving the ball spot on touchbacks from the 30-yard line into the 35-yard line for kicks sent into the end zone. The results of the 2024 season were a success. The league saw 332 more kickoff returns, bumping the previous 21.8% return rate up to 32.8%. There were also 59 big play returns of 40 yards or more last season, which was the highest figure since 2016. By improving field position for teams on the receiving end of touchbacks, the league hopes teams will be deterred from kicking the ball into the end zone, which could lead to more returns in the 2025 season and beyond. An overdue change is finally coming to the NFL. The Chain Gang is no more, as now it's replaced by the Sony Hawkeye system, which consists of 6 8K cameras that were placed all around the stadium and will continuously track the ball. The traditional Chain Gang will still remain on the sidelines, but in backup role instead. The switch is also expected to speed up the game, as it will just take 30 seconds to determine where the ball is compared to a minute for the old system.
Sienna Betts is joining her sister at UCLA. More on that after the break.
Open up your books to page 360.
Did you just look at your phone while you was in class? You played yourself.
about inspirational quotes.
You gotta believe in yourself. Don't ever play yourself. The key is to make it, so make it.
Louise, can you give me an example of an inspirational quote?
Don't play yourself. The key is to make it.
And who said that?
I did. Now that's a major key alert.
Learn the real major keys to getting to college at GetSchool.com.
UCLA-bound Sian Betts receives MVP honors in the McDonald's All-American game on Tuesday night in New York. The CHSAA state champ had 16 points, 7 rebounds, and 2 assists for the West in their 104-82 victory over the East. Betts is believed to be the first Colorado high school player to win the MVP at the McDonald's All-American game since 2002. She currently sits as the class of 2025's number 2 overall recruit. Next year at UCLA, she'll be joining her sister, Lauren Betts, who opted to waive the 2025 NBA draft in order to play her final collegiate year with her little sister. UCLA, South Carolina, Texas, and UConn are all amongst the Final Four in Women's March Madness. 3 of the 4 teams are the number 1 seed, with UConn being the odd one out at number 2. But with Paige Beckers at guard, no one is taking them lightly. She's averaging 20 points a game this season, with her average only rising as the tournament progresses. UCLA will be a fierce competitor as they have been having their best season in program history, only losing 1 game to their Los Angeles rivals, USC. South Carolina is a wild card, as without the key star player to their team, it's difficult to scout. However, they are averaging 40 points per game more than any other bench in the nation. And finally, what Texas lacks in offense, they make up for in their suffocating defense. With their leader, Madison Booker, they make it tough for a team to play against them in March Madness. The March Madness championship title could go to any one of these teams.
John Morgan is back in the news again, but not for his stellar performance. On Tuesday night against the Warriors, Morant made a finger gun gesture towards the Warriors bench after making a basket. Morant has been suspended multiple times in the past for his incidents involving actual guns. In 2023, Morant was suspended for 8 games after flashing a gun on Instagram at a Colorado nightclub. Then, in May of the same year, he was suspended for 25 more games after again showing off a gun while in his car during another Instagram video. Morant was given a warning and no suspension. Michigan State is under the fire by the NCAA. The NCAA is investigating Michigan State's football program over potential recruiting violations during former head coach Mel Tucker's tenure. The school confirmed on Tuesday Michigan State Athletics had cooperated with the NCAA to review a potential matter concerning the football program under the former staff and will continue to do so for the duration of the process. An athletic spokesperson said in the statement, NCAA rules do not permit the university to provide any additional details at this time. Tucker was fired for cause in September amid a school investigation into sexual harassment allegations.
Recently, California lawmakers announced that they won't change state policies allowing transgender kids and teens to play on sports teams consistent with their gender identities. This comes amid a heated nationwide debate about the participation of trans kids in athletics. Biology matters, Republican Assembly members said. Sports are one of the places where the reality is most obvious. There are more than 49,000 trans youth from the ages of 13 to 17 in California, and over 24 states have laws barring transgender women and girls from participating in certain women or girls' college competitions. Shiloh Sanders is in hot water due to a Mercedes. More on that after the break.
Most party fouls are pretty dumb. But if you decide to drink and drive underage, you could lose your license and your freedom. Underage drinking and driving. The ultimate party foul.
Mercedes-Benz is demanding that Deion Sanders' son Shiloh Sanders should return his $135,000 car after claims of missing payments arose. In 2023, Shiloh Sanders filed for bankruptcy after his debt mounted to over $11 million. Mercedes-Benz is asking local courts for permission to take back the vehicle and for Shiloh to notify them of where the car is. Records show that Shiloh agreed to finance the vehicle in monthly payments in 2023. However, he continued to make payments after filing for bankruptcy. Shiloh Sanders will continue to prepare for the upcoming NFL draft, but is uncertain if he will be drafted.
Talks of banning the controversial play from the Eagles have been tabled until the next executive meeting in May. The tush push is a play where quarterback Jalen Hurts is pushed by two players behind him in an effort to get a first down or a touchdown. This play had a success rate of 84%, making the play extremely effective. While talks have been set aside until May, it is reported that 16 teams, or half the league, is in favor of banning the play.
Now with the Sports Roundtable, here's Nick, Matt, and Micaiah.
Hello guys, I'm Micaiah. I'm here with Nick and Matt. Let's start with probably the hottest topic in sports currently is March Madness. Now all four teams are the #1 seeds. This is only the second time in history this has happened. What are your guys' thoughts on that?
Well, you know, I think it's good for the sport because all the upsets are great in the early rounds, but then usually every tournament that sets up for some more snooze fest games in the later rounds, because when you see these 11, 12, 13 seeds matched up against the powerhouses, the 1, 2, 3 seeds, it doesn't make for a good game. So we've seen a lot of good product here in the later rounds of March Madness as a result of these lower seeds not getting wins in the early rounds, which, you know, obviously the phrase is March Madness for a reason, and the madness is what makes it fun. But really what matters, the bread and butter of the tournament, is the later rounds, the Sweet 16, the Elite 8. And we've seen some great games in those rounds this year between all the high-powered teams. So I think it's been good for the sport, and it's been a really entertaining tournament. I've enjoyed it so far.
What about you,
So
Matt?
I'm a big fan of it being all the ones, because if you look at last year, I think it was UConn, San Diego State. 1 versus 5 is not like 1 versus 12, as you're saying. It was what, like 79-50 at one point towards the end of the game? They're blowouts.
Yeah.
This year, I have Duke in Florida. Florida is one of the most athletic teams in the country, but Duke has a #1 prospect and one of the best point guards in the country. So just if you have that championship game, I think it makes better content. Everyone will tune into it instead of San Diego State, who's probably not a bigger college for people that want to tune in. But if you have Duke, it's one of the biggest colleges for basketball in the country. Florida, everybody's going to watch that because they love the Gators. So I think for overall March Madness, I would love that style instead of all the upsets.
Yeah, for sure. And these higher seeded teams, they may win a game or two in the early rounds, but they essentially have no chance once it gets really down to the nitty-gritty of things. And, you know, we're watching a great Final Four. The games start on Saturday. Micaiah, you mentioned the second time in tournament history that all 4 #1 seeds have made it to the Final Four. So we should see some great games this weekend. I mean, Duke has established themselves, in my opinion, as the best team in the country. They just look unstoppable. They have multiple guys that are most likely going to be lottery picks in the draft in June. So that's a really good team. They face off against Houston, though. Houston really impressed me in that game against Tennessee over the weekend because Houston had full control of that game from start to finish, dominated the Volunteers. So I think Houston could put up a fight, but I agree with you. I think Duke will eventually advance to the championship round. And then Florida against Auburn, that's an interesting matchup for me because I thought Auburn was one of the weaker #1 seeds coming into the tournament, but they have been able to handle their business. And they are a more experienced team. Their entire starting lineup is 22 years old or older. So very experienced team. And Florida, they have Walter Clayton Jr. So that's a big plus right there. And, you know, they scared me a little bit, Florida, in their game against Texas Tech. I thought they were going to drop that one, but Florida and Auburn's a toss-up to me.
Well, if you add Auburn, how healthy is Broom now?
Exactly. That's
is
a
it
big
his
factor,
knee? Is it
too.
his wrist? Is it both?
He played great against Michigan State, though, so we'll see. Florida versus Auburn is the matchup that I'm looking forward to the most this weekend.
And if you guys had to put your money on a team, who do you think is going to take it all home?
I hope Duke.
You hope Duke?
Yeah, I hope Duke. I'm not a Duke fan, but I'm rooting for him.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to go against Duke. Coming into the tournament, I thought Florida was the clear best team with Cooper Flag banged up for Duke. But he's shown that he's healthy throughout this entire tournament. And Duke, they haven't had a close game yet. They've just been dominating. So it's hard to go against Duke at this point.
I'd have to agree. I'm also with Duke. Cooper Flag is just too good. Moving on to our next topic, we're going to crack down on the Yankees. What do you guys think of those tornado bats that they have? Torpedo bats that they have?
So I hate how everybody's perceiving it to be just the Yankees. It was a thing that happened last year where the Yankees started it, yes, but if you go down the league, Francisco Lindor's using it. Like, I have a whole list. I think Adley Rutschman. Like, it's players outside of the Yanks. Aaron Judge hit, 4 home runs the other day? He's not using that bat, so it doesn't matter. It's only 4 players. Like, just stop the topic, all right? Like, I don't know, it just annoys me that people want to keep saying it's the Yankees, Yankees, Yankees.
And we'll see how it plays out with these other teams, but the one big thing you have to remember is the Yankees mash anyway. They're a great hitting team anyway, so these torpedo bats might give them a little bit of an extra boost, but they're a good hitting team anyway. If you put these bats on the White Sox, they're not going to have the same results as the Yankees. So, but I could see this end up being kind of a tush-push situation if this continues, of teams starting to argue that they have an unfair advantage, which I don't agree with personally, but it could end up happening.
I could see that happening, and I wish we could get more into it, but we are out of time. So thank you, guys, for tuning in, and back to the desk.
And to close out our broadcast today, I wanted to talk a little about the Phillies and how they're doing so far and what we think they're going to go for this season. So, Patrick, what do you think the Phillies are going to do?
I think they're going to be good. I don't think they're going to be great. I think they got great players all around, but if you look at the NL and you look at some of the teams and you look at the Phillies, it's just the fact of the competition in the NL East is going to be crazy. I mean, I know the Braves have been kind of throwing a stinker to start the season, but their talent is going to eventually outweigh that. They've gotten really unlucky in a lot of games. And then you got the Dodgers out west. You got the Diamondbacks. The NL is just too stacked for this team to go really where they want to be, which is finally getting that World Series ring.
I completely disagree. I think with the way the NL East is looking so far, obviously, like, Marlins never do anything.
Yep.
Nationals, like, Braves that are down, and who knows what the Mets are going to do, really. I think we're on track to get the division.
That's fair. I think the vision is in play, but is this team going to go into a series against the Dodgers and be able to take down that team?
No one's saying anything about the Dodgers.
Okay.
But if you look at where we are in the NL, I think maybe probably other than the Dodgers, we're the strongest team in the league.
It's definitely, it's in contention, but the strongest team, the Phillies, compared to the 6th best team in the NL, there's a wider gap from the Phillies to the Dodgers than between. The Phillies could go out and lose to, they could lose to a Cubs team, they could lose to a Diamondbacks, they could lose to a Padres. Can the Dodgers lose to a Phillies? Can the Phillies even, really keep up and win their division? I know everyone's loving Sosa right now, as Chief Keef once famously said. But the team's on fire right now. The team's fun. It's a fun team, but is it good enough to get that next step?
Patrick, the bats are there, the defense is there, and I think for the first time, knock on wood, because this is what always gets us, I think the pitching might actually be there.
Oof. No, that's what I'd be concerned about, which is, I know you said it's like the first time, and I'm sure there's some, but like if they're at the top of their game, it's definitely a possibility that they could manage.
All right. I guess we'll have to agree to disagree, Patrick.
I guess we will. Well, that wraps it up for tonight's special sports edition of The Rundown. Have a good weekend and a good night.